Today's balance complaint consists of just a single word, and that word is Ultralisk. It was submitted by a player called Misaki from the North American ladder at a diamond level of 3700 MMR. And I guess the question is the Ultralisk imbalanced? Or do I suck? Let's figure it out. Alright, here we go. Misaki, our Terran player, versus Ghost Rogue as the Zerg. Very standard openers from both sides. We have a hatch first, the gas pool on the Zerg side of things. And we have just a Reaper into CC, into Factory, Marine. Maybe a second gas, maybe no second gas. What's it to you? Why do you care? Ooh, we went for an SCV scout. A lot of the higher level players nowadays are going in without an SCV scout because they believe they have the tools and the ability to deal with anything as long as they can get a scout with their Reaper. So what they do is actually really cute. I would not actually recommend this because it requires higher levels of execution, but what they do is they start a second Marine, and then when they arrive with the Reaper and they see a late hatchery, they finish that second Marine. However, if it is a normally timed hatchery, they will cancel that Marine and still build the standard reactor, and it is still in time. So it's just a little safety that got added, and as a result, I'm not saying they always no scout, but it's much more frequent. And they're probably not safe against absolutely everything, but they're safe against a lot more things due to that small little change. What the hell is this? Surely this got spotted, right? Like he's seen it. Am I crazy? I feel like he saw that entire line of lings just walk past. Okay, so he's... Oh my god. Complete. Scouts the third? Oh... And then the double ling. Like, these are bait lings. It's like, come here, little fish. Nothing going on. Oh, that is so wild. He's just keeping him busy with these two lings. And Misaki doesn't even want to be kept busy. He's like, alright, I'll go back. I'll take these lings out. Dude, he got baited. Throw him back in, because this guy's a fish. What the hell? Absolute beastly play here by Ghost Rogue. This deserves the win. This entire sequence. They just... completely outplayed, outthought, outbrained. He completely destroyed his opponent. Oh my god, Lings coming from the back as well. I actually wonder how Ultralisks are gonna get into play here, because this feels extremely over. Look at this. 16 workers to 21. Third CC doesn't finish. We have 2 more Hellions now coming out. Okay, so he's eventually going to stabilize. Oh, this was actually nice control. Man, this is the thing, that over the years... like, these MMRs, like, the level of the MMR has changed. Like, a 3700, like, these were some good micro maneuvers. I really do appreciate it out of Misaki. That was actually quite well handled. Now, Terran players, they will gaslight you in a situation like this. You know, it's like they lose like 30 workers. They have no real units, no serious tech because they have no money for it. I mean, they have the starboard and the tech lab, but they can't afford a Banshee and the cloak, right? But then they'll gaslight you. It's like, no. I opened triple CC, so it's okay for me to lose 25 workers because I have orbital commands. And they make up for a lot of the economic disparity. But then when Terrans play against Protoss and they kill 2 workers, they expect to instantly win the game. It's like, no, you don't understand, Protoss players. If we kill 2, it's very good. When you kill 25, the game should be about even. And they've gaslit us so much over the years that you'll hear casters repeating this. You know, a Zerg will move out with a Roach Lingal in. They'll kill 38 workers. Zerg is up 60 to 10. And then the casters are like, I wonder if this is good for the Terran or not. I'm like, no, he's down 50 workers. A mule is worth about 3.5. He is still down about 40. It's like, this is not how it works. It really is not. And especially if there's no assets on the map already, like Hellions or Banshees, it's just a bad situation, okay? Terran can come back from a lot, and they have come back from a lot, but this is legitimately a garbage setup. He does not have extra barracks yet. He can't even, he isn't even dreaming of E-base at this point, okay? Even in his most insane dreams, you know? He can fly, and he is rich, and people like him, and he writes balance complaints consisting of more than 1 word, so I have some early game content to make fun of. Like, in all of his wildest dreams, he's still not thinking of E-base. I couldn't remember where I was going there in the end, but it was the E-base, right? Because he still needs to build the 2 barracks. He's still in the Hellion building phase. Like the Terran build order is kind of divided in phases. It's to make it easier for them to digest what they need to do. You kind of have the Hellion building phase, and then once that phase ends, they're happy with the amount of Hellions they have. They add the barracks in, right? Because that minerals that before you were pumping purely into Hellions now go into barracks. And then you use that factory that we have over here to build a second reactor. So you're going to have 2 reactors. Usually you build a barracks on the reactor right away because you're floating away the factory anyway. There's no reason to have to fly it in the end and then do some swapperonis. It's a waste of time, a waste of effort. So you just build it, boom, right here. Then after the 2 barracks, you get the double eBay. So now, just now, we're thinking of the double eBay. Look at the upgrades here for the Zerg. Halfway done already. This is going to be one of these games in which the Terran should be behind the entirety of the game in upgrades, at least until 2-2 is done. And then after that, sometimes Zerg, they're a little bit delayed starting that hive because they also can be idiots. What the hell is this? The classic triple spore defense. Single spore. Single spore. That is one of these bases is not like the others, all right? We have 1 queen, 1 spore. 1 spore, 0 queens. 6 queens, 3 spores. And you fly into this base. I mean, you can't know it, but that would be very sad. That would actually be very sad. Meanwhile, Misaki is slowly but surely actually kind of coming back into that game. He's only down, what is it, about 25, 26, 24, 22 supply right now. His 3rd base is gonna land. His barracks 4 and 5 on the way as well. It's going to be relatively safe if he builds a couple of tanks. Now, one of the main issues for Ghost Rogue is basically the lack of drones. He built too many lings, despite not really having anything to be afraid of. So this could have basically all been drones, I want to say. There have been 3 Hellions and 2 Banshees. So yeah, these 32 lings actually could have all been drones. And he would have been in a much, much better spot. His 4th base is extremely late as well. And all of this is allowing the Terran back into the game. The Terran is not allowed back into the game because they had 3 CCs and the Mule is so powerful. No, this is not a good situation for the Terran. Or a fine situation for the Terran. And we shouldn't pretend like it was either, okay? The Zerg allowed the Terran to make a comeback. This is not fine because he had triple CC. Like, this is the type of game that people then will refer to and say, oh, Terran can be down 30 workers. And the problem with that is that when Terrans then lose a game, so, the reason why Terrans gaslight us all the time and pretend that it's fine is that they then can pretend that game counts when we talk about balance, They'll have a game between, like, Cero and Maru, in which Cero is up 60 workers at the 5-minute mark. And then Cero ends up winning in a 35-minute late game. And Terrans go, late game is Zerg favored. I told you guys a long time ago. And it's like, well, yeah, Cero had 15 bases against the 3 of Maru, and it still was close in the end. This is how they change the conversation, and you need to be aware of these things, okay? I'm not saying, that all Terrans are evil, but most of them are, and if you have Terran friends, there's probably something wrong with you. We have 2-2 halfway done. This 2-2 just started. But the Terran is already, making some way here. Because I think the Zerg must have hesitated a little bit. Zerg also decided to do absolutely nothing with his lead, which sucks for him, because now the lead is pretty much disappeared. Terran is just sitting back, which is one of the things that Terrans are very good at. This is a nice drop. I'm honestly not unimpressed by this Terran so far. Like, I'm not super impressed, but really all the Terran did wrong was let these 25, 26 links into the main base and lose everything. Yes, that was bad, but there was a single mistake that cost him a lot. The rest of his gameplay is actually fine for this level. Like, doing a good job building SCVs, doing a good job building army, the money stays low, the upgrades are rolling, we're building a somewhat decent army composition. If this would have been an actual even game from the start, I think Misaki at this point would be up 40-50 supply, because I think his macro is actually superior. As long as nothing crazy is happening, he seems to be kind of in control. Look at that, clearing creep as well. I do like these things. And this is the beauty of StarCraft 2 in general, but especially at the lower leagues, is that you have these people with just very different skill levels in different areas, right? You'll have dudes that have a great first 3 minutes and then are terrible for the next 15 and then are also brilliant in the late game for some reason. But in that entire middle part, they're awful at. This is a really, really, really atrocious fight here for the Zerg. I can't imagine this being good. Okay, that move command helped a little bit for these banelings to at least get some damage. It's an interesting maneuver as well. Let's just walk, but you know, let's welcome these rolling landmines with open arms. It's not quite what you want to do usually, Mr. Mizaki. 2 more Ultralisk, or the first 2 on the way. These are the first 2. Army composition isn't quite ready yet. I think this is not actually a bad play either. Like, he's going kind of fast. He says, hey, I just had a really good fight. I want to see if I can kill you. I have 2-2 upgrades. I think you have 2-2 upgrades. Let's go, baby. Even get a little bit of pre-splitting. Like, would Clem be proud of this fight? No, but Clem has a pretty high standard for himself. 3700 MMR? Hell yeah. Those are nice splits. These were good enough. You walked back, you let the tanks do the work, and as a result, you're gonna get this base for free. Well, for free, you're gonna get this base. Nice. And now we can piss off, because I think we saw the Ultralisk from the corner of our eye in our peripheral vision. And that now brings us to a situation where we're up a base. This is actually a good spot. The Terran is now ahead. We're completely fine. We have extra barracks coming in. Another thing is that I actually wanted to compliment the Terran just now on adding 3 more barracks and building tech labs, but I feel like that is a little bit patronizing. I think I do this with Terrans, where I compliment them for things that I shouldn't compliment them for, you know? I don't compliment a Protoss player at 4k MMR for making a correct wall against a Zerg. Like, I don't do it. I make fun of them when they don't, but I don't compliment them. And I shouldn't have to compliment Terran players when they build 3 extra barracks and add the tech lab so they can start their Marauder production. Because this has been the standard in TVZ for the past 12 years in literally every single game in this matchup. If you can't remember your unit composition being first Marines, then Marauders, then maybe you don't deserve to play this game. Go back doing something else. I don't know. Play with marbles or something. Actually, marbles are pretty high tier. But, you know, something different. Something easier. With less inputs. Maybe a game with only 2 matchups. Or 1 matchup. Maybe you should play Warcraft 2. I think that had 2 matchups, right? You could play Orc versus Human. I guess it also had the mirrors. Orc versus Human, Orc versus Orc, Human versus Human. But if you play 1 race, you only have 2 matchups. So my point still stands. This is some nice guiding. I really do appreciate that. You know, I have seen so many people that when there's ultras and they're winning, is they try to stand there and fight if they have a lot of Marines in the army, because Terrans think that Marine is like the magic potion. They can do everything, but you actually do need a lot of Marauders and you need to kite. Those are the rules, okay? Those are the rules. In order to optimize the outcome of each battle, you're gonna need to kite a little bit. This was fine. Ghosts are now being produced after scouting it as well. Transitions are pretty smooth. Do we have double factory? Yeah, we do. I feel like we have been lacking a little bit in the factory units production. We're 14 minutes in. How many tanks have we lost? We've lost 2, and right now we only have 5. So that does feel very low. It actually does feel very low. This also is a scary fight. Tanks weren't entirely sieged up. It's still going to be fine. Yeah, it was a good fight. We have the second leg of this fight now coming in. I'm once again kind of afraid here. We get a couple of transfuses. I would really not recommend doing this type of move out with tanks against ultras. This is usually not what you see. You want the tanks in good defensive positions and you want to deal with the ultras, usually with higher ghost counts, things like liberators, but not with straight up attacks with tanks. And the reason for that is because, first of all, when you're out in the open, you're much easier to surround. So the ultras can come from multiple directions. The tanks are way more vulnerable. And also you tend to leave your bases a bit more vulnerable. And when people are playing ground styles with ultras, there's often a lot of lings involved as well. So this is something that I really, I'd be a little bit wary of doing this many move outs with tanks. I think this is actually a mistake. And it potentially compromises your position for later on in the game. However, Misaki, he has a one-track mind. He's going to continue going out on the map. We now have a ghost count of 6, at least at this portion of the army. Maybe there's more coming in. No, not yet. Don't see it quite. How many ultras is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. Beautiful stuff. Get a big stim. This is not a bad setup though. I'd love to see 1 or 2 liberators above this. Ghost maybe a little bit further in the front so you can snipe. Can I snipe from a distance? Yeah. This is also good. Honestly, the way he engages is really neat. Just hope we're gonna see some snipes as well. Yep, there come the Ghost. Actually gets the snipes in there too. This is honestly, when it comes to fighting, is phenomenal. He's doing this very well. Now, there is an issue that I had mentioned before. That is the ling run by. We're gonna get a lift. It's gonna cost him about 20 workers here. It's gonna cost him every single worker in the main base as well. And due to the lack of micro now, this is also kind of gonna get cleaned up by these ultras. As I said, against ultras you need the kite. So yes, that was a nice fight, but then you lose everything at home. That's not quite brilliant. I'm not sure how much of this we can really blame on the Ultralisk, and how much of this we can blame on the fact that you weren't ready for a ling run by over at your third base, which was something that, you know, that is a risk if you're moving out with all of your tanks. If you are moving out with all of your tanks. Oh, he's actually lost the CC. I feel like Terrans that lose their buildings, that have, how much HP does a orbital have? 1500 HP, and that can float away. Look, I'm not an advocate for bullying, but these Terran players, if that happens, there is something wrong with them, okay? And I think that needs to be repeatedly pointed out in a mean way. This is also, he mislifted. Like, there's a landing spot here, my friend. It is not that hard to see. Just move it over 1 to the right. Like, all of the bases have it these days, or almost all bases have it these days. They tell you exactly, with a good visual indicator, where you need to land your base, or where you need to build it, your nexus, or your hatchery, or your command center, or your planetary. It's also very obvious. It's difficult for me to see. Like, it's a clean mistake, you know? A very clean mistake. Game isn't necessarily over yet. Army composition, we have some lips, we have 5 ghost, 8 marauders. What I would say here is, you know, increase the ghost count, because ghosts are always good. We already have a lot of gas in the bank too. One issue that Misaki is now walking into is the fact that he doesn't really have a 5th base. But I guess that is the same issue here for Ghost Rogue, who is just now rebuilding that 5th. He's trying to take out these rocks, which is a good call. It's going to allow him to make to take much better engagements on the left side. Maybe set up a type of flank into this area. 2 more lips on the way. We have the fusion core, more marines, more marauders. Like, marines at this point are completely useless. Every marine you build could have been something useful. It could have been an SCV, could have been part of a ghost. Like you're fighting against someone that has 10 ultras and 14 hydras. Like, you're not killing those units with marines. Maybe you're killing the hydras with the marines, but then you first need to clear the ultras. And the way you're clearing the ultras is with marauder, liberator, ghost. No other way. This is a good fight once again for the Terran player. At least the start of it is very good. Liberators here as well. Ghost snipes need to go down. Hello, can we snipe? There we go. It's now gonna snipe the same hydra 6 times. Very cool. Very, very cool. I mean, good enough fight once again, I think. These fights aren't brilliant because the ghost energy isn't being used. Right now it's just an auto-attacking unit. Once again, ghost not being used for snipe. He's just actually using it like a bio unit. He's gonna lose all of them. This is a really bad tail end of the fight. He didn't kite properly, and he also didn't snipe. Like, you have to do one of the two. And some people are capable of implementing both tricks at the same time, where they snipe and then they run back and they snipe again and they run back and they snipe, and all of your ultras are gone before you even get a single swing in. Right now, Ghost Rogue actually up a base, up 2 bases, because he also has this base. He's not quite mining from it. There's a little bit of oversaturation. There's no casters on the side of Ghost Rogue. Misaki, after losing the ghost and forgetting to snipe in the last fight, has now made the executive decision to then just not use the ghost. I don't know how to use them, and thus I don't build them. I usually like this. If you're bad with something, is to just kind of pretend like it doesn't exist and, find a trick to overcome your weakness. But when it comes to the ghost, I think it is so important for the Terran to know how to use this, that I would really recommend still building them. Even as an auto-attack unit, as long as you kite them, they're actually pretty powerful. And it's also not like snipe is such a complex ability. Like, You use the hotkey for it, then you left click the unit that you want to disappear, and then the unit kind of disappears. Like it is a very simple mechanism, and it is by far the best unit that you have. By many even considered to be a little bit overpowered. Now, I would never say such a thing, but I have heard that particular complaint in the past. Instead, we're now going to go into 24 Marines, who have never killed an Ultra in their life, 17 Marauders, 4 tanks, and 1 Liberator. Now, we are getting advanced ballistics. Still have a lot of gas in the bank. Like, all of these Marines could just be ghost. All of them. Another thing we could do, by the way, now I know this is a controversial claim, is that we could split off our army. We could, for example, use our tanks in a sieged position to hold defensive spots we care about, like maybe over here or over here. We have a couple of tanks over here. And then we drop Marines and Marauders individually from the main army. It feels like Misaki, after the first 7 minutes, doesn't actually use hotkeys anymore and just uses the F2 all-army hotkey the entire time. He now announces with a trumpet that he's moving towards the bottom side. Very nice. The banging surprise attack that Ghost Rogue is going to be ready for. Chased his Overlord for 7 seconds with his entire army, still didn't manage to get it. He's now going to siege up, scans forward, but oh no! Misaki, they're coming from the back too! And you have no Ghost! And a lot of Marines. This is still an okay-ish fight. It's not great though. And now they're coming from the side. It's gonna be real freaking hard. Oh. All the medevacs get taken out. See, this is... I actually really do feel for Misaki here. Because Misaki crafted the perfect tier 1.5 army. He had Marines, he had Marauders, he had tanks, and medevacs. He had the exact same army that he had at the 4-minute mark, basically. And his opponent, Ghost Rogue, what did he have? Corruptors, tier 2, and he had Ultralisk with all the upgrades. The ultimate Zerg unit, so to say. And his Marine Marauder force didn't even rip through it. That is insanity to me as well. I don't understand why this is viable. Marine Marauder medevac should be the counter to every army. That way we get fun and exciting games. With varying degrees of... You can still change the ratio of the Marine and Marauder, if it's always the best. Maybe sometimes you want more Marauders and the other times you want more Marines. So you still get like this diversity of playstyles. It's like, oh, Harstem is more of a Marauder guy. Maybe we should also make the Marauder shoot up to make them a little bit stronger against this type of comp. Like, I don't understand what Terrans expect here to happen. He had a better army earlier in the game when he actually added Ghost. He fights in a position where he gets surrounded by Ultras. Like, the one thing that is not allowed if you're fighting Ultras of Creep is to get surrounded by them so that they actually get to hit you. What does he do? He gets surrounded. Doesn't multitask a single time. Like, the one thing that Marine Marauder in the late game actually is good at is multitasking. But even that, he decides not to do. Now the Corruptors. He rebuilds the Ghost. This is a typical Terran mind as well. Whenever they lose a single fight, no matter what their own input was, they assume that there's something wrong with their unit composition. So they change the unit composition. So the first time, he kind of lost a fight with Ghost because he didn't use Snipe. So it might as well have been Marine Marauder. And it's like, okay, we'll cut out the Ghost. The Ghost is what's the problem. And then the next fight, gets surrounded while playing Marine Marauder tank, Liberator. It's like, my execution? Nah, that was fine. I probably need Ghost. And just keeps going back and forth, changing his composition again and again and again. This type of game has absolutely nothing to do with imbalance. If there's anyone that's gonna make an imbalance claim, it would obviously be the Zerg who killed... Like, I could see this. I can visualize this IODIS form already. I killed 40 workers in the early game, and then the Terran came back with Ghost Marine Marauder, and he killed me with just tier 1 units. Don't you think this is a little strong? Like, yeah, that's a little strong. But you let him come back, Mr. Zerg. Like, it was even again, and then the fights were going well for the Terran when he was using the Ghost. He stops using the Ghost, the fights stop going well. Do we see a correlation there? Yeah, it's the Ghost. Use the Ghost. This, my dear friend, has nothing to do with the Ultralisk and everything to do with your lack of the Ghost usage. So no, it's not imbalanced. You just suck. That's going to be it for me today. I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Is It Imba or Do I Suck? Do you have some real imbalance? Just the other day you were playing a game. You're like, wow, that's imba. I can't believe that's still in the game. Send it over to me. Type up a little imbalance complaint for it. Maybe use more than one word. And who knows, maybe next week we'll be covering your game here on the Harstem channel. Wouldn't that be nice? Ciao, ciao.